Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the August 4, 2025 Meridian Transportation Commission meeting. I'll call the meeting to order and run the roll call. Mr. Ballard.
Present.
Mr. Shoemaker told us he would not be available today. Mr. Lancaster, are you online?
I am present, Mr. Chairman.
Welcome. I am present. Mr. Hopkins.
Present.
Mr. Lewis.
Here.
Jared Smith. Mr. Leclerc.
Present.
Lily Miller. On the ex officio side, Kelly Bruner.
Present.
Austin Miller.
Present.
Miranda Carson.
Present.
There you are. Welcome. Kate Dahl. Our second meeting together today. People are going to talk. Justin Price.
Here.
Welcome. Sergeant Smith told me that she and her corporal are both out of pocket today, although I have an email from her we'll talk about later. Tricia Murray in legal.
This is Ali Brashears here for Tishra today
Welcome.
from legal.
Appreciate it. And Heather Hill. I haven't heard a rumor about her. We'll talk about that later also. Okay, first item is the adoption of the agenda. Does staff have any proposed changes in the agenda?
Mr. Chair, I have no proposed changes.
I'm sorry,
No proposed
Oh,
changes
okay.
to the agenda.
commissioners, any changes?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
I have a question. On last month's meeting minutes, it was,
You're ahead of yourself. Adoption of the agenda.
okay,
Is that, let's do it during the minutes. Okay, I know what you're talking about. That's okay.
yeah, that's fine.
We will get you.
Thank you.
Anyone else? I have one on, I think it was Thursday afternoon, an item was added to our agenda that we need to consider today, but the revised agenda that was put out put it in as item number 4, and I'd like to move that down as the first item in staff communications today because that's what it is. So if that's okay with everybody, we will move the Centerpoint commercial traffic memo down to number 1 in the staff communications. Anything else to change on the agenda? All in favor is changed, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you very much. The approval of the minutes of June the 2nd. Commissioners, questions, comments, statements?
Mr.
On the
Chairman,
minutes. Yes, sir, Mr. Lewis.
I have a question. In last month's minutes, there was a section in there about the discussion on the queuing analysis and when it's required, when it's not, and so forth. And then I saw in the future meeting topics for last month's minutes, it also had that item. And I was absent last month, so I don't, or last meeting, excuse me. So I'm not sure, was that agenda item fully talked through, or is it in the last minute's future topics because it needs more discussion?
I was not here either, so I can't help you.
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Ballard.
Mr. Lewis, I missed the first part of your comment. You were asking about what section?
About the ACHD queuing analysis
Okay, okay.
requirements.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
I was going to ask for a status update from Heather on that when we reviewed these notes. I seem to think it's pending point for conversation. Other commissioners may recall differently.
Mr. Hood looks like he may have an answer for the question. Please.
Talk loudly. Bill Parsons is actually here today to do the follow-up on that. So it's not titled as queuing analysis, but under the UDC code amendments, that will be kind of part 3 or 4, however many times this has been talked about. So we will cover that topic to some degree when Bill talks about the UDC changes and the queuing analysis as part of city code here in a few minutes.
Thank you.
So the answer to your question is yes and no, but we'll get it taken care of.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Yes,
Mr.
sir.
Chair,
Yes, ma'am.
I want to let you know that Jared Smith is available online. So he is with us.
Okay,
Just
thank you.
Yep.
Welcome, Mr. Smith.
Mr. Chair.
Any other changes to the minutes or questions about the minutes? Chair would like a motion and a second to approve the minutes.
So moved.
A motion
Second.
and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any
Aye.
opposed? The minutes are approved. Transportation project updates. Ms. Hill, are you going to do that one for us?
I am.
Okay, thank you.
So for this month, transportation updates begin on page 6 and go through page 13. I don't have a lot of new bolded updates in the packet this month. You will see on page 10 that there are several updates as the previous months for the Meridian downtown pavement and pedestrian improvements. So 6 of those projects as part of that overall project have been completed now, and 6 are still ongoing. So there are updates in there to reflect which segments have been completed near downtown. And I don't know if you've kind of walked around or seen all the sidewalk work. It's nice to see some of those gaps filled in. So that is one update on the ACHD projects. I don't have any new ITD ones yet, but maybe Justin will have some updates later during ex officio updates.
Commissioners? Questions? Hearing none? Thank you, ma'am. Okay, new business, amendments to Title 11, the Unified Development Code, Mr. Parsons.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the commission. Pleasure to be here with you today. I don't often come before this body. I know one of your commissioners was at the Planning and Zoning Commission hearing on June 26th, where I had an opportunity to share this year's round of code changes. I won't go into all the details on what we're doing this year with them, but I know, and this body's interest is in drive-throughs. And the reason why this ended up as one of the topics on my UDC focus group changes this year, or code changes, is the fact that since COVID, the city has seen a tremendous increase in drive-through establishments. And under the current city code, we don't define drive-throughs, we don't isolate them from different drive-throughs. So a bank drive-through is the same thing as a fast food restaurant drive-through. So that's where our code is different, doesn't really differentiate the difference between them. And as you are aware, I believe Mindy Wallace was here a couple of weeks ago or a month ago trying to educate you when a queuing analysis was required by ACHD. And probably what you heard from there is it depends. And that's the world that we live in with drive-throughs, because they aren't all created equally. When you look at an in and out, it's vastly different than you going to your bank and making a deposit from your car. And of course, there's different hours of operations that go with that. So in my realm, I am the current planning supervisor for the Meridian Planning Department. And so all drive-throughs don't necessarily require a conditional use permit, but they are typically accessory use to some other use. So for example, in the example of an in-and-out restaurant, the restaurant is the primary use and the drive-through is the accessory use. And that's the same thing with a bank, a dry cleaner, all of those different, the coffee shops, all of those are different, are the primary uses, with the drive-through as an accessory. Now, when it's required, when a conditional use permit is required, that is triggered because of the fact that it may be within 300 feet of another drive-through, or it's within 300 feet of a residential use. And so we want to try to minimize the impacts to those surrounding businesses, or there may be an on-site traffic conflict that we want to analyze as part of our review of the conditional use permit. We want to make sure that cars can circulate in and out of the site and there's no conflicts between the existing drive-throughs. Now, the current, thank you, Heather, for bringing up my proposed code changes. in the proposed changes that I'll be taking before city council next week, I am breaking drive-throughs up into different categories. This particular code change, what we're trying to do is because we've had so many CUPs for drive-throughs, we're trying to make it an administrative approval. So in our world, that's staff level, try to minimize us having to go to public hearings to discuss this in front of the Planning and Zoning Commission. But two, as part of that is we want to have better express standards that we can apply to all drive-throughs so that it doesn't require that extra level of scrutiny that you get from a public hearing. So currently, what I have on the books today and what I'm sharing with you and what I will be sharing with City Council next week is we'll still require conditional use permits for drive-throughs in certain cases. So if it's within 300 feet of a drive-through or residential use, it's still going to require a conditional use permit. If they can't meet the standards, they can apply for a conditional use. So that's really, if those are two triggers that if they're not within 300 feet of a residential use and they're meeting all the standards, we're not even going to hearing. It's going to be staff level approval. And then what we've done is we've taken it a step further is I'm not an expert in drive-through standards, but I've seen enough codes throughout the country. And as part of my effort of building this code and sharing this with you today and going in front of City Council next week, is that there's actually a group that meets of various stakeholders, residents, just like you, volunteers that are part of what we call a UDC focus group. And so we lean on those industry experts to help us dive in and fix and amend the code and make it functional for all of us. What was unique about this is we actually had an expert that actually does drive-through permitting throughout the country and nationwide. So he and I were kind of a subset of that group, and we actually sat down and came up with, we took some of existing code nationwide and then kind of tailored it to Meridian's needs, which I'm pretty excited about because I've wanted to fix this section of code for a very long time because of the fact that, again, not all drive-throughs are equal. So in this particular case, we actually broke drive-throughs down into tiers. So we call it tiered 1, a tier 2, and a tier 3. And a tier 1 in our world, or at least under this definition, would be your banks, your pharmacies, your dry cleaners, where it's less impactful, limited amount of trips. Hours of operations are your typical 8 to 5, and then closed on the weekends. And then we had a tier 2, which is maybe a fast food restaurant with a single lane drive-through. And then you have a tier 3, which would be your Raising Cane's, your In-N-Outs, where you have your Chick-fil-A's, where you have dual drive-through lanes, multiple menu boards. And how do we treat all of these differently? So that's kind of the thought process that I had in working with the group on how can we really, because that was the direction that we got from council is they were concerned that how do we, they call them high capacity drive-throughs, we call them drive-throughs, but we know that a Chick-fil-A and In-N-Out, they move a lot of vehicles. And so we have to understand that business model and build a code around that to try to combat that. Now, am I going to sit up here and tell you this code is perfect? No, no code is perfect. You try to minimize the most impactful, you try to build codes to minimize the most frequent mishaps, not trying to capture everything. You can't fix everything. And that's what we talked with council as well. The other part of this particular code is we're actually defining the width of the drive-through lanes and the number of vehicles that need to be stacked. So I know this body is concerned about vehicles blocking drive aisles or even stacking on roadways, which that's ACHD's realm is, that's what they don't. That's why they require the queuing analysis. Again, if they're concerned that a drive-through may have an impact on the adjacent roadways, they may require that queuing analysis. I'm going to tell you, I'm not an expert in transportation queuing analysis or traffic studies. We leave that to the experts at ACHD. I know when I was looking at drafting the code, I had that as a provision that we would require a queuing analysis, but I have no one on my staff that can analyze that or verify that that's accurate data. And we didn't want to lean on another agency. So what we thought the better thing to do was to define the number of vehicles that could stack in each lane and have them provide what we call a queuing exhibit. So rather than getting that traffic analysis and showing how traffic is going to be routed through the site and what the transportation engineer will guess on how many cars will move through their drive-through at any one time, we basically say, give us a site plan and show us how many vehicles you can accommodate in that stacking lane, from the menu board to the ordering window. For these tier 3 high capacity drive-throughs, if you will, we're actually requiring them to stack up to, believe it's 12 vehicles. So, I mean, that's quite a bit of queuing for a drive-through. And to me, that's the most important part. Now, I don't know what city council is going to do next week. I know we've had conversations with them that they may want all tier 3 drive-throughs to go through the conditional use process because of the impacts and the amount of volumes of traffic that they generate. Again, I don't know where that's going to land. I'm going to try to steer them away from that because, again, I think we have enough express standards here where we could probably do it all administratively, but I'm not the policymaker. All I can do is share with them the research that we've done on this and how involved the UDC focus group has been as part of this as well. But again, I'm glad to be part of the discussion today. There's not really an exact science to it, but I'm here to certainly answer any questions you may have about the topic.
Commissioners, questions?
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Leclerc.
thank you. I was at the Planning and Zoning Commission. My concern was these queuing analysis. It looked like the ACHD was asking us to come up with a way to trigger or not trigger queuing analysis. And they kind of wanted us to do that for them. But what Bill has presented, what the group had been working on, I think where we left this in May was it's being worked on. So this is the result of that. And attending that meeting and raising that question and having Bill go over what he just went over was satisfactory to me in that we now have not only do we not probably say to ACHD, yeah, you should do a queuing analysis, we kind of leave that to them. But we have these tiers that don't even require conditional use permits. If it's a business, they have others of these, like this coffee shop drive-through that we saw in May. They had 4 other businesses like this in similar neighborhoods. They could create a document saying that without having to have an engineer's stamp and all that. And it would probably expedite our process for a conditional use for approval of a site plan without a conditional use permit. So I was pretty happy with this whole thing, and I wanted to give that feedback to this commission. And I think it'd be appropriate, since the council hasn't voted on this yet, if we wanted to consider recommending support for these amendments. So that's my feedback so far.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes,
so this is the first time we've seen this.
my knowledge.
I mean, this presentation on the screen is the first time we've seen this. How can we possibly review it and give informed consent? I mean, I can't give any kind of opinion without reading through this. So I'm not prepared to do any of that today. We had no advance copy of this to look at or anything. That's all.
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Ballard.
I appreciate the work, but it seems to me that there's an inherent conflict. As I see it, planning and zoning does their hard work. The city does their hard work. They approve a conditional use permit. And then the question that I raised 2 months ago, who deals with the spillover when more than 12 cars want to get in that lane and spill out into the street? as we grow and there's a coffee shop just down the street, it plugs 2 streets. So not on my pecking order, but who resolves that conflict?
I mean, after the fact,
Well,
after it occurs.
yeah, 20 cars.
Not anticipating it to happen, but when it does happen, correct?
Yeah, Mr. Chair, members of the commission, certainly those things happen. And you're right, it happens after the fact a lot of the times. But it is our code. Our code says you can't obstruct the public right-of-ways. And so it does become a code enforcement issue for us. And we do take that up with our code enforcement division. I think a good example of that is that Dutch Brothers on off of Meridian Road, where we had the appropriate stacking lanes for them. They meet the code, but at times they are very busy, and they came before you, I believe, and hopefully they came back, they worked with ITD and ACHD to come up with some solutions to solve that. Again, no zoning code is going to solve every issue like I had testified, but I'm hoping that with these changes, we can mitigate some of that or minimize that from occurring. But certainly, I think it's still appropriate that the residents will continue to use this body as they have in the past to help us solve those solutions. It's not ideal. We don't want that to happen. It's not safe for anybody. I'm with you. I don't want to be dead stopped on Meridian Road waiting for people queuing in a drive-through or any arterial roadway. And it's too dangerous for our residents and our drivers on our roadway. So certainly at that point, we're gonna have to get involved and figure out and help that business owner decide how they can move cars through their businesses better, or see if they can work with the adjacent neighbors and come up with some additional alternatives for stacking to make sure it's not impacting that adjacent roadway.
Yes, sir.
So I really appreciate the presentation, and then this does give us some guidelines when to do what, which kind of clears that up. As for making a recommendation, I'm kind of leaning towards, I'd like to read all, I mean, I heard Bill's presentation. It sounds good to me, but there's a lot more words on this document than that, so.
Yeah, I'm a little, and I don't know that this is a question, but I'm a little puzzled why we don't have this in our packet, where we could have at least looked at it over the weekend, maybe. I do have a question on what's on my screen right now. D3 talks about 20 feet of any residential district. And then previously on the screen, which I can't see it now, it's up higher, was something else about how many feet to some residential something. What, can you resolve those two, or tell me there's no conflict because you just can't remember what the other one said?
Mr. Chair, members of the commission, a couple of things. Apologize, it wasn't in your packet, but if I'm not mistaken, I believe Heather brought these before you, or shared these with you at a previous transportation commission hearing. So at least gave you, I don't know if it was when ACHT was here or not. So I
Have
could be
we seen it
mistaken on
before?
Negative.
that. And then part two to your question about conflict. So
I'm not
There-
saying there's a
yeah,
conflict. I
there's
just
not a
couldn't see both
conflict.
places.
yes. So as I mentioned in my presentation, a CUP is going to be required if the drive-through is within 300 feet. As part of that, some of the zoning districts so some of the zones in our zoning code require certain separation from residential uses as well. So for example, if a drive-through was in a CN district, there's a requirement for a 20-foot buffer between a residential use and that commercial use. So that's why you see the drive-through lane. If they had a drive-through, the minimum separation is going to be 20 feet, which is consistent with code. In some instances, it could be even greater than that because of whatever zoning is adjacent to that residential use. So there is no conflict. One portion of the code is you need a CUP if you're close to a residential district. And then the other portion is you have to have a physical separation between the drive-through lane and the residential use when you develop the drive-through.
Mr. Chairman,
Just about it.
maybe a different pathway if I can ask the question.
Please.
What problem is being solved? Currently, there must be a problem with the existing code. So what problem is being solved by this proposed change?
Yeah, Mr. Chair, members of the commission, there's not a problem. What we're trying to do, it's like anything. When I just got done with my GIS certification, and one of my projects for school was how many drive-throughs have we approved pre-COVID, and how many drive-throughs have we approved post-COVID? And the numbers were staggering. Literally, it was like 4 times the amount of drive-throughs have been approved since 2020 between 2020 and 2025. And a lot of those require CUP approval just because they're within 300 feet of another drive-through or some other separation requirement that really someone's already have zoning. They already have a by right to do a restaurant. All we're doing is going there in front of Planning and Zoning Commission and making extra work and more hearings when if we had better express standards and could define how these should function and be designed, we could probably gain some efficiencies citywide and be able to approve drive-throughs without having to go through a public hearing process. That's the ultimate goal here. It's not solving an issue. There's no issues with our design standards. All of them, again, some of them work well and some don't. Most of the time, business owners or these operators of these types of businesses, they know how to run their business. They know it better than we do. They know how many vehicles they can move through their drive-through during their peak times. They share all of that information with us when we do pre-applications meetings with them. So it's really just to gain efficiency more than anything, but also do it in a way where we realize that we're growing quickly as a city. Transportation continues to be a major topic for our growth because our roads are more congested than ever before because of the growth. So this is just a way to modernize our code and making sure we're staying within industry standards. And I think this code does that. And defining those and separating out to different drive-throughs from one another, I think it's an important aspect that we need to have in our code. Because again, a bank drive-through is not the same as a fast food drive-through.
And you want to preclude, for lack of a better term, the simple ones from going before Planning and Zoning Commission.
That's, Mr. Chairman, members of the commission, that is correct. Yeah, if it's not necessarily, if it's not really going to impact the neighborhood, there's really no need to have a public hearing.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
I think I've developed my own answer or thought on this. And I say this complimentary. If I step out of bounds, Ally legal counsel will whack me. But if I hear Mr. Parsons, currently there are no standards to speak of, but now you're putting standards in front that you can measure, analyze a proposal. Otherwise, if you do not have any standards and you make a decision, it becomes somewhat arbitrary and capricious. Those are 2 legal terms. And so you're putting some meat on the skeleton, if I can use that term, and developing, for lack of better terms, some checkbox that says, okay, it meets these standards. And that's what we're basing upon, not how somebody felt if it was a good idea or a bad idea. So with that, I appreciate the dialogue, Mr. Parsons.
Anyone else?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
just a quick question. So the definition of the drive-throughs with a tier 2 and a tier 3, and the only difference between the 2 and the 3, okay, it's the same type of business. It's just whether they have a single drive-through lane or a double drive-through lane. So, so I'm confused why we need the differentiation here, because the only reason you would have 2 stacking lanes is if your trip generation showed that you had so many vehicles that, or, I mean, it's a function of how much space you have. I mean, it's not that a tier 2 and a tier 3 business wouldn't necessarily generate more cars. It's just a matter of how you're stacking them up. So I'm a little confused of why we need that separation between a 2 and a 3.
If I may, is your question have to do with that tier 1 has to do with type of business, and then 2 and 3 jump into stacking lanes only? Kinda, maybe?
Yeah, yeah, tier 1 obviously is going to have a lower trip generation than tiers 2 and 3 are going to. You know, the tier 2 and tier 3, the number of vehicles being served will be the same. It's just a question of on your site plan, how do you store those vehicles?
Mr. Parsons, do you consider tier 2 and 3 drive-throughs generating the same volume? Just one's got the elbow room to put in 2 lanes where the other one doesn't, maybe?
Mr. Chairman, members of the commission, not necessarily. It wasn't the idea, and I'll give you an example. What I've seen with the drive-throughs is Chipotle. If you've ever ordered online, you have your mobile app, you order, and you go and pick up. Basically, there's no cars queuing at all in the drive-throughs. You pull up in the drive-through to the window and pick up your order. So that's where the tier 2 is tailored more towards that type of restaurant versus your McDonald's or your In-N-Outs. So that was the idea of why we came up with the tier 2, tier 3 and broke them up differently. Because again, I don't know I think every McDonald's you see now usually has 2 drive-through lanes and merges into one. I've seen that with In-N-Out, but that's what we were trying, at least from my experience working with that industry expert. There's a lot of these restaurants going to more of the mobile ordering with Sonic and all of that. And so they don't need the 2 stacking lanes in the queuing because everyone's doing it online. And then they're asked, they'll say, come pick up your order between these times. And you hardly see any queuing. So there wasn't a need to require or consider all restaurant drive-throughs the same.
Is anything being asked of us about this today?
Mr. Chairman, members of the commission, no, this is merely just
Informational only.
letting you know that I'm going before city council next week on presenting this and trying to close the loop with you all on your topic of queuing analysis.
Mr. Leclerc?
Yeah, one of the reasons I wanted us to take a shot at this is just what Mr. Ballard mentioned before, is when this breaks, it's going to be us that deals with the problems. And so just like the intersection on Victory Road with the YMCA or schools that are congested with traffic, all these, we try to develop a code that makes sense and has a consistent process for developers. But on the other hand, we sometimes have to deal with trouble after that well-planned development has gone in, and we're the ones that pick up the pieces when there's a long line of cars that can't get in or out of a neighborhood, or a business. So that's why I think it's important for us to look at this and be aware of these changes. And so I wanted us to at least do that. And I'm detecting some uncertainty about this. I hope this was helpful to us today, but I'm not going to make a motion for a recommendation. But appreciate all the input from fellow commissioners. It's been good.
Anything more, gentlemen?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
and in a broad scope, if we were being asked to recommend that a drive-through analysis, or excuse me, I got the wrong term, queuing, if this ordinance should be changed or they should study it, That's about all this commission has ever been asked to do. Outside of one or two experts on this commission, none of us have the expertise to analyze, nor would I want to be asked to what I think of Mr. Parsons' work. It's beyond my pay grade. So if the question simply is, should there be a new ordinance? I think we give them our blessing and tell them to move on.
Anyone else? Thank you, sir. On a similar topic, and not for discussion, what's the status of the In-N-Out over by Costco? I've lost track in the news where it is. Just the status of it. It was denied by P&Z, appealed.
Yes, it's still going to be supposed to be in front of city council next week, but it's actually going to get continued to September 9th.
Okay, that's all I want to know. Just looking for a little bit of local news is tough to get in this town. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
I had one other question for Mr. Parsons. There's several, we're just looking at one section of all these amendments that are before the city council. One of the other sections is about private roads, and I don't remember. Could you just go over that? Because we sometimes get private road conflicts in here too. And so what that change is anticipated to be on the private road section, over that.
Mr. Chair, members of the commission, I don't have the slide prepared for you on that particular topic, but I can tell you, yes, we are that is part of this round of code changes that will be in front of city council. Again, went through the UDC focus group, shared with the Planning and Zoning Commission, but the intent is to, again, our goal at the city is to have developments provide public roads. That's just the better option for everyone. There is no private property involvement, or everyone gets to use a public road. It's very easy to administer and understand that. But there are instances where we work with ACHD and, they're of the opinion that there's no public benefit for a public street. So they would prefer the developer do a private street because it may be a small infill. And so we're trying to tailor our private streets towards more of the infill in nature, so that you're not having to build cul-de-sacs and these big wide streets, so you can accommodate infill and prioritize that more than continue growing outward, which can be a challenge, as you know. A lot of times when you have a smaller project that are private streets, what do you do with those long-term costs associated with that? But again, what we're trying to do is open the door a little bit wider to allow the developer to request private streets in certain circumstances. I know council had concern with that as well, because we've had some instances in our community where we've had private to public streets and they haven't been received very well. There's a lot of concerns with cut through traffic, maintenance of that roadway, two separate HOAs managing the roads. One's not responsible while someone else is responsible. It hasn't worked out well for us. But I think the way we're moving forward with the private road changes, we're allowing the developer to, again, the idea is still to maintain connectivity through the neighborhood and not just have complete private street communities. We still want them to tie into the public street network. We don't want them blocking public street access to others. But again, the intent is to prioritize infill. Not a lot's changing to our standards. There'll be instances where a private street can be a little bit narrower than an ACHD street section. So that gives the developers some flexibility. But again, we're not rewriting the entire code. We currently have private street standards in our code. It's almost like the drive-throughs. We have code. We're just trying to define it a little bit better and have a little bit more express standards, and so that it fits in these certain circumstances. That's the intent here. It's not to just open it wide open and say, we want private streets everywhere. No, they can work in certain cases, but they don't work in all cases. And I think having that discussion with council next week should be pretty interesting too.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
those comments are just in line with what Mr. McClure would like to bring up. Because his issue, you have to deal with the definition of a private street. And taking it a little bit further, who regulates private streets? And if I recall from my memory banks, Mr. Lewis was on the commission at that time, and Mr. Hopkins. This goes back 10, 12 years. Parcel A, parcel B, there was an easement between A and B. It was opened up and built like a private street, and the public decided they could use it. So you get into regulatory questions, and I'll leave it at that because some of the comments will come up when we discuss Mr. McClure's question. But it's an interesting question because a private street is just that. I own it. Nobody else gets to use it. But they do.
Okay, we need to move ahead if we can. Thank you. Item 5, Commission Bylaw discussion by Ali Brashears. Ma'am, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the commission. So as you, I believe, have been told, the City Council passed Resolution 25-2075, which updated the Meridian City Code and required each commission to adopt bylaws for the proper conduct of the commission's business, which are subject to approval by the mayor and city council after a recommendation by this commission. A template draft was provided for you. This template focused on including terms that aren't already found in city code to avoid creating duplicate language. So some of what was removed was in both places and didn't need to be. And so we were able to clean that up so it could really focus on what we needed to have in here. Each commission has been offered this recommended template, which I understand is how bylaws were adopted in 2016 as well. So this is your starting point. While we do recommend uniformity and consistency where possible, this template can be changed if necessary to suit the needs of any particular commission. I believe all of the commissions have been provided this template and are currently reviewing it so that they can adopt their bylaws as well. As far as next steps go, the commission will review the template bylaws, and then at some point, I believe in probably a future meeting, we'll vote on whether to make a recommendation to pass the bylaws with whatever changes you've decided on needs. The city attorney's office will then forward a proposed resolution for city council for approval. The intent is to pass all commission bylaws as a single resolution, just so we can get them all on the books at the same time, so there aren't multiple versions perhaps laying around. And then once city council approves, the new bylaws will take effect. And that is all I have, unless there are questions.
I have a process question. Do the commissions approve their own bylaws or recommend them to council? Or do the commissions approve and then the council has to approve? What's the approval process?
Yes, so the Meridian City Code specifically states that each advisory commission shall adopt bylaws for the proper conduct of the commission's business, but that the bylaws are subject to approval by the mayor and city council after a recommendation. So this will be your approval. Once you've approved them, then they will go to city council for that final approval, and at that point, they will take effect.
Okay, we adopt and they approve. Okay. Commissioners, anybody have anything on this?
Mr. Chairman?
Mr. Ballard, you jumped in first. Go ahead.
Well, unless I've missed something, there's a little bit of rust in the brain. Our current bylaws talk about us meeting once a month, the first Monday of the month. That's one that I'm thinking of. So help me out. where in this proposed, does it say we have an obligation to meet once a month or at all during the year? What am I missing?
Mr. Chair, is,
Yes,
um,
ma'am.
for this, I believe that was one of the, I'm pulling it up right now. I believe that already existed in the, city code.
The code
Yes.
calls for that.
Yes, the code. So I just looked it up. It's 2-1-5 and it's D, and it says that the Transportation Commission shall convene regular meetings at 3:30 on the first Monday of each month. So you will see a few things that are missing, but if they're missing, most of those are already in the code with just a few exceptions.
Thank you for clarifying that.
Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Leclerc.
Some of the things that I saw, there isn't any detail about our standing committees. And there's nothing about, we had some language in there about how the meeting itself is regulated, how there's a time limit. Once 2 hours have gone by, has to be a vote for us to continue in our session. And all that language is not in this new proposal. And so what I think we should do is, if sometime in August, maybe my committee could meet and compare the old language to the new and see if there's recommendations we can make to the full commission to include or not include those different sections, and then present all that at our next meeting, which might be October, but I don't know if we could take time to vote on it at a September meeting. So, because we're out on the field.
Ms. Brashears, take subcommittees first. There is a section 7 entitled subcommittees. And it says may establish such as necessary. What more do you want?
Well, I just think they should, there are bylaws. We can, and I think it's helpful to the public and to, as new members come on to the commission, to see what we really have.
What you want is us to sit down and look at the present versus the proposed.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, I think the bylaw, the code, the city code says this is the basic structure of the commission, and all of our commissions look like this. But how we do our business and how decisions are made through our subcommittee system, and recommendations, especially on projects, which is the main thing we do, comes through a committee and then goes to the full commission. It shows levels of work and focus that are the reality of us doing our jobs. And so I think the bylaws should reflect that and be more specific about what we're doing. And our current bylaws do cover some of those things. And so I just thought our committee could take a shot at this and see compare the old to the new and see what we're losing and what we should keep and things like that.
Okay,
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Lewis,
I have a few comments if you want to.
I would love to hear them.
Okay, let me start with Section 8 voting. In the middle of Section 8 voting, the third line, it talks about the majority of members present. I think we need a definition of what present means, whether that's in person or virtual, because on this commission, we've had voting in person and voting via Zoom in our commission meeting. So I think I'd like some clarity of what counts as a legitimate vote. Can we have a quorum if
I will
we're?
leave that up to legal.
Okay,
I believe we consider Mr. Lancaster and Mr. Smith as being present
well, sure.
at this meeting.
Sure, I do too, but if someone's just reading this, present physically,
Okay.
I don't know.
If you're, Tom, if you're going to look forward to a subcommittee meeting on this, I hope you're making notes
I
about
did, I just.
other questions. Okay.
I will.
And a second one?
Okay, if we go to section 3 nominations, I've got two questions here. The first about the current vice chair being automatically nominated for chair. And my question is why? And then the other question about this section is, well, how do you nominate other people on the commission for an officer? I mean, this kind of, it doesn't say that, you know, anybody is eligible. It just focuses on the vice chair being eligible. So that seems weird to me.
You'd like to clean that up a little bit. Okay.
And then section 6, the minutes, it talks about how staff will forward the minutes, you know, not less than 48 hours before a meeting, but then there's nor more than 30 days prior to a meeting. And my question is why? Why do we care how early we get the minutes to a meeting? And then the other notes I had were, as Commissioner Leclerc mentioned, our current bylaws have a maximum length of 2 hours for a meeting. You know, I can go either way on that one. Just, we should probably talk about it. And then the other difference I saw was in the current bylaws when it talks about the ex officio members of this commission. And we've talked about this before, but the current bylaws talk about a member of council as our liaison and ex officio member, and I guess that's not being done anymore, so.
Council did away with that,
Okay, I just wanted to bring that up and, okay.
which they never asked us what we thought, but
Got it. Those are my comments, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Hopkins, anything? Mr. Lancaster, Mr. Smith?
Mr. Chair, I think Commissioner Lewis kind of nailed any thoughts I might have had and more. So
One thing that I do not see in here is what about members missing meetings? I'm used to seeing, and I don't, Ms. Bashir, you'll have to catch me if it's in code and not in here, or not in code and should be in here. But I'm used to seeing different kinds of how many meetings you can miss in a row, how many meetings you can miss in a year, how many meetings you can miss in a whatever before you are sent a nice letter saying you've been missing meetings, or before you're told you're automatically off, or whatever the case may be. But I didn't see anything in here that talks about it at all.
Mr. Chairman, that's in the new code in 211D9. The mayor shall remove any commissioner who misses 1/2 of the meetings held by the commission, blah, 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 in any calendar year. So you can miss only half the meetings in a calendar year.
So code covers it's what you're saying?
Yeah.
Okay. When the subcommittee goes to look at this, you're gonna need three things. You're gonna need the code, you're gonna need the present bylaws, you're gonna need the proposed bylaw. And I would suggest that you consider meeting not waiting until an hour before the October meeting.
No, we have time.
You need to have probably
About
more
late
than one,
August,
more than one meeting.
Yeah, so August.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, ma'am.
just as a point of clarification, have you voted to send it to your subcommittee yet? Or are you still discussing sending it to your subcommittee?
We're discussing it.
Thank you.
Sounds like we're gonna vote in a minute, Tom.
Mr. Chair, Commissioner Lancaster would like to speak.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you, because I can't see him or that.
Speak up,
Yeah.
Mr. Lancaster.
Mr. Lancaster, say what you say.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Sorry for not being there today. So
Commission, go ahead.
you asked for any input I had. I just wanted to concur with what Commissioner Lewis said about, let's see, about nominations. So Article 2, Section 3, it's both very specific and kind of vague. So it seems like it should say something to the effect of chair and vice chair are nominated by, the commission from the commission members or something like that, and strike what's in there currently.
Okay,
That was all I had, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
thank you. Any other commission comments?
Mr. Chair,
Mr. Ballard?
and Mr. Leclerc, again, I'm dusting off the memory banks. It seems to me that when we created the subcommittees, that was by a motion, and they're in the minutes. I do not recall, and I apologize if they're there, but I missed it, that subcommittees were designated in our current bylaws. So, this is not me giving you the task, but the chair said two things to look at, and I would dare say there may be a third thing, and that is any matters that we've adopted by motions, such as the subcommittees.
Mr. Chairman,
I got that right, Mr. Lewis?
looking at the current bylaws, it says the commission chair with the commission's approval may establish such subcommittees, blah, blah, blah. And the new, well, the template, excuse me, the template has a similar language in section 7. Subcommittees, the commission chair with the commission's approval may establish such subcommittees as necessary. So the language seems similar to me.
But neither one of them name our current two, to my memory, subcommittees.
No, they do not.
All right, Mr. Mr. Chairman.
You need more paper?
No, I'm ready to make a motion. I
Okay.
move that the subcommittee on ordinance and development review convene on August 25th at 2:30 PM in the conference room to review old and new bylaws and develop recommendations for the commission.
Second?
Motion, second by Mr. Lewis. Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? There you have it. Thank you all very much. Ms. Bashirs, are we okay with you on all that?
Yes, Mr. Chair, thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Dahl, you are up. Canyon County Transit Day Survey by Kate Dahl of Valley Regional Transit.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and Commissioners. You may recall a couple months ago, I had mentioned that City of Nampa had requested that VRT provide 4 different scenarios for them going into budget season on expanding service, reducing service, eliminating service, or keeping current service. So as part of developing those scenarios, we got some public feedback on Canyon County Transit Day. We put out an online survey, we rode the bus, wrangled our riders into giving us a survey response. We had 2 open houses and we had some focus groups. And I thought you might be interested in the results. We also had a bunch of, besides the survey results, we also had a lot of rider quotes, which were very compelling, and I did provide a bubble diagram of those. Next. So first of all, we asked where people lived, of course. Most of our respondents were from Nampa and Caldwell, but we did have some from rural parts of Canyon County. We did have 1 survey response from Meridian. We did receive over 200 responses to the survey. Next. Oh, how often do you ride? This was a rider-focused survey. Most of our riders, you can see, rode every day and weekly. High percentage of ridership there. We did have almost 23% that said they would like to ride, so that was promising. When we asked them which of the 4 scenarios they would recommend to the city of Nampa, they the highest response rate was expanding transit to Nampa with 109 responses. And then, of course, maintaining service at 43 responses, and then some lesser responses, as you would expect for reducing and eliminating service. We did ask, whether our riders were over 65, disabled, or had incomes less than 26,000. Of course, we got responses to those, but what was surprising is we did have a large number of responses from riders that didn't fall into any of those categories.
Ms. Dahl?
Yes.
Didn't ask for permission.
You have permission. Go ahead, please.
For the less than 65, not disabled, and income over 26, do you have the demographics? Do you have a group of up to 20, up to 30, up to 40, up to 50? Or is 81 just everybody between 18 and 65?
Yeah, essentially in this data, I think at this point we had 181 responses. So it would have been 81 responses out of 100 responses. None of those apply.
Okay, so no idea how many teenagers responded to this.
No, we didn't ask all those additional demographic
All right,
questions.
Thank you.
Yeah. We do know, as a side note, we have compiled data for our Valley Connect update, and where we've estimated that approximately 36% of the population of Idaho doesn't drive, and 21% of those are people under 14, so don't have a driver's license. 15%, 10% over the age of 75, which is the average age people stop driving. And then the remaining percentage of that is disabled, folks that are disabled within those two age ranges.
Thank you.
Yes. We also asked, of course, how much of the percent of their transportation budget transportation is, since we do have a large percentage of riders that are riding every day and weekly, less than 15%. And as you can see, a higher percentage, we have 11%, more than 25%, and almost 45% over the threshold of 15%. If you guys are familiar with the Housing and Transportation Index, it's a planning index that was developed that talks about basically household budgets. And if your household budget for housing is over 30%, then it's considered unaffordable. And if your transportation budget is over 15%, then it's considered unaffordable. Talking about the connection between housing and transportation affordability. Surprisingly, here in Idaho, when we looked at that data, the transportation costs are higher than housing, which is astounding considering how much housing prices have gone up. And so, yeah, one of the questions we've started to ask people is, how much are they really spending on transportation? Is it higher than housing costs? Because one of the easiest ways, although housing affordability is a hard nut to crack, but people can easily save money on transportation by going and taking the bus. Bus pass is $42 a month as opposed to maybe whatever $1,000 you're spending on your car by the time you're paying your auto payment, insurance, all of those costs. Just to give you a little bit more background on that one. We also asked what the positive factors of public transportation are. Top ones, of course, are independence. Everybody needs to get around to get to work, school, home, shopping, regardless of whether they drive or what, essentially what age they're at. So that was a big one. And then, of course, saving money. Riding the bus is an easy way to save money. We also had, of course, reducing congestion. A lot of people feel safer riding the bus. They don't want to drive in traffic. They don't want to drive in the weather. And then a lot of people can use that time to do work or socialize, other types of things. Next. Going back to the expanding transit in Nampa, we did provide them some routes and ask them which routes they would prioritize adding service to. Their top request was adding service to the Nampa Caldwell Boulevard, which makes sense. It's the main artery of transit service within Canyon County. But next, they also saw expanding Route 45 from Nampa to Meridian to improve those inner city connections.
The left numbers are route numbers currently.
They are. Well, they're not current route numbers, but future route. Some of them are current route numbers. Some of them are future route numbers with expanded.
The answer is yes, they're
Service.
route numbers.
Yes.
Okay.
Thanks. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Well, I was trying to figure out how Wilder with hardly anything got up to 80 somewhere, but anyway.
Yeah, those are the route numbers that are in Valley Connect 3.0,
Okay.
our long range plan. Next.
So, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir.
So there is now not a route 45 Nampa to Meridian. Is that right? Just not,
There is.
Yeah, there is.
there is. So they want to, the feedback here is to expand it or?
Yeah, to
Right.
add, to basically add more service to
More
it.
service.
Yeah, one of the responses that we really, and I think this question also gets to, is that the writers appreciated having the service in Nampa, but they felt if there was more service, more people would use transit and they would use transit more often. It's basically at a base level. But for example, for the Route 45, if it came more often, if it came, say, every 15 minutes instead of 30 minutes or only at the peak periods of the day, people would utilize it more. Next question, how would the elimination of services affect you? Obviously, cost me more money was a top response, and not being able to access Nampa destinations. I think some of the more compelling ones, as you look farther down the list, although they don't have as many responses, I would have to stay home. You know, we know among our senior population that social isolation is a huge issue. A lot of seniors utilize our transit services to get around. A lot of them would just end up having to stay home. 37 responses, people would have to find new jobs. And then also the last one, 28 responses, I would have to move if transit was eliminated or reduced. So those are real impacts to people's lives. A lot of support, 93% support for supporting local government funding in transit, very high. The most important reasons they support public transit, again, independence, having an alternative to driving. It's nice to know that even if you drive a lot, that if your car breaks down or, you know, maybe you have a medical issue or you want to save money that month, that you have another alternative to get around and still live your life. People also were very supportive of supporting the economic productivity of those folks that can't drive, as well as reducing congestion and the other reasons you see below. Like I said, we did some Canyon County focus groups. Some of the biggest concerns that came out of that, the ADA paratransit service, as you know, is 3/4 of a mile around fixed route. If fixed route's eliminated, then so is the paratransit service. That would drastically affect folks and not get them to their medical appointments. That would make the, you know, if people are not getting to their medical appointments, then you're going to see impacts to getting more EMS calls, more calls to other rideshare service, as well as more higher costs in medical care as people wait too long to go. Next. Just a couple of quotes here. For us, service elimination would be a doomsday scenario. Although one of the big concerns in Nampa is just the level of ridership and not a high ridership, that there isn't high enough ridership. The fact is the people that do use it depend on it for their everyday lives. And if they don't have it, it's pretty dire situation. Next. I kind of already talked about expanding service. We can move on to the next slide. We also got a number of letters of support, 7 different letters of support from CWI, College of Idaho, Leap Housing, Boise Rescue Mission, that all had compelling reasons for maintaining transit service. As you can see here, one of the surveys that they had conducted internally, 25% of our residents identified public transit as their primary way to get to medical appointments. Next. The Boise Rescue Mission identified that transportation is one of the highest barriers for those trying to get and keep a job, make doctor's appointments, and take care of their health. And then, yep, this is just a word cloud of basically all of the words that we heard that were reiterated through the survey. Next. And a video that won't play, but if you'd like, I can send Heather a video link and you can take a look at the video. Next. Okay. That wraps it up. So thank you very much.
Thank you, ma'am.
Oh, and the ultimate result of all of this public input was City of Nampa did decide to stay with current service for this year and fund it for another year. They did ask about some expanded service scenarios, which we are working on now. Just some little things like maybe adding another vehicle to on-demand service or adding more frequency on the Route 42 down the Nampa Caldwell Boulevard, just to get some costs and see if they can step up to some higher levels of transit service in the future. So safe for another year. We'll see how it goes next year.
Questions, comments? Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Okay, the next item on our agenda. September has traditionally been our field trip month. And I took it upon myself when I saw the new ACHD operations center, what's it called over there on Franklin?
The Traffic Operations Center, Mr. Chair.
Yes, that one. I pulled in to look at a building and found out it takes up about 12 city blocks over there. So if city staff can work out with ACHD our touring that at the regular time for our September meeting, that is the plan, unless the commissioners tell me we don't want to do that. We're going to think of something else.
Mr. Chairman,
Mr.
so you said the annual field trip, isn't that the annual field and snack trip?
It has been known parenthetically as the and snack trip, yes.
Thank you, sir.
Chair,
Just about.
if I could make a suggestion,
Sure.
we plan that for morning as opposed to late afternoon, because I live on Franklin or off of Franklin. And from about 3 o'clock to 6 o'clock, the traffic is stacked from Eagle east to almost Cloverdale, where ACHD has their building. So
Would that not be a good thing for the Transportation Commission to see? I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
well, you can see congestion at work, which, no, with all due respect, ACHD is working very hard on traffic mitigation. I get that. So I would say, if it's acceptable, that we plan that for either mid-morning or extremely early afternoon. Enough said.
Mr. Hood, reaction?
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the commission. So yeah, I talked to Mr. Bruner just before this meeting started. Wheels are in motion. One point of clarification real quick. We don't have it, the regularly scheduled, the first Monday is actually Labor Day. That's why we do our annual field trip / snack trip. I don't know what breakfast snacks look like, but we'll figure that out.
Oh, yes.
Potentially. But Kelly's already talked to his staff and wheels are in motion. I don't know how well that's going to align with this discussion on being Monday, the 8th. So just again, it's not the 1st because that's a holiday. So we would probably do it on the 8th, but we need to get their blessing and someone needs to chaperone us. So he's heard this discussion and hopefully that fits into when they can accommodate us, but I just wanted to be honest with you. They're gonna give us some times that work for them, and I'll probably email you all and say, hey, here's some options, what works best for a majority of the commission.
Okay. All right, great. Does that work for us, guys? Okay, thank you very much. We're looking forward to it.
Mr. Chair, just
Yes,
to
sir.
beat this up, they're gonna, well, they'll throw out some options, and how are we gonna know which one to select?
In terms of times,
I mean, you're gonna be a dictator and just say.
what,
that's-
are you asking how do you pick what time?
Yes, sir.
He's going to put out the available times offered by ACHD and get everybody's opinion on which one they want.
I see, okay.
And if it's an absolute perfect tie, I will break it,
Okay. I'm just curious. I'm
Which
looking
I
at the
doubt.
procedure. All right.
Okay.
All right.
Okay, ex officio updates. If I can find my ex officio list. Mr. Brunner, you get to be number one today. Go ahead. Anything other than the September trip to talk about?
Mr. Chair, members of the commission, a couple things from ACHG. One, 5-year work plan, the draft will be approved, or sorry, the draft will be made public August 6th, so that's later this week. Yeah, later this week. And then the adoption will be, excuse me, I'm getting my dates confused. The 5-year work plan will be made public August 14th, excuse me, with final approval later this year, maybe mid-October. The ACHG budget will be made public August 6th with final adoption August 27th. And then also recently, I don't know if you saw the news, but ACHG was awarded an $18 million federal grant for some pavement rehabilitation, ADA upgrades, sidewalk connectivity projects in the Boise Bench region. That's all I have.
How or does that grant fly in the face of what the legislature did the last session regarding non-automobile methods of moving around this state?
Mr. Chair, members of the commission, it is federal money, so the new legislation has no impact on that.
Thank you. Mr. Miller, Compass.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the commission. Austin Miller with Compass. Do have an update on a handful of projects here, so thank you so much for having me. Just a status update for Communities in Motion 2055. That is the next iteration of our regional long-range transportation plan. Its anticipated completion date is December 2027. However, we have been working with our board and technical advisory committee to get approved steps as we go. So the current steps that we are working on is project prioritization and what that process might look like, as well as the compilation of what high level, what we think some of the plan or some of the projects could be that we would include in that plan. Additionally, we are working on our Regional Transportation Improvement Program, or the TIP. This is our budget of federally funded project or regionally significant projects, if they happen to be locally funded, throughout the Ada County and Canyon County, the 2-county region. So our fiscal year 2026 through 2032 Transportation Improvement Program did go out to the public for comment between July 1st through July 31st. Those comments and list of projects will be going to our Transportation Advisory Committee this Wednesday for review and ideally their recommendation to our Board of Directors, who will then see it at their August 18th meeting for approval. I would like to take a moment and thank Commissioner Leclerc for coming and joining us at our open house. Thank you so much for being there, sir. It was a pleasure chatting with you. We do also have, we branded it Let's Ride Treasure Valley. This is our high capacity Transit Planning and Environmental Linkages Study. The anticipated completion is December 2025. However, that is also included on our advisory committee meeting agenda for this week to review the final round of public input and technical analysis that we have done on the study. So really looking forward to the conversations that we'll be having on Wednesday, again, seeking our advisory committee recommendation to our board of directors for their August 18th meeting. We are partway through the carbon reduction strategy. This is to identify and prioritize strategies that help reduce transportation-related carbon emissions throughout the two-county region. We have some consultant support on this project, and it is anticipated to be completed in September. And then recently, we have actually just kicked off our resilience improvement plan. A couple members of your staff, I can't recall exactly who they are, but thank you for them, are hopefully going to attend our first work group meeting coming up at the end of the month. This project is going to analyze the criticality and vulnerability of important transportation infrastructure throughout Ada and Canyon counties, and then use that to develop a prioritization list with that in mind. So this is a really new project that has just kicked off for us, so that anticipated completion date isn't until March 2026. And then one thing, if you don't go to our website every day, I would encourage you to go there soon. The very first banner you'll see is we are starting to promote our Leadership in Motion Awards. My apologies. So these nominations are now open between now and September 26th at noon, but why wait, right? So what are our Leadership in Motion Awards? It is a literal trophy. So if you have a hardware shelf either here or out your desk, or maybe staff is worthy of having something to show off, it is a literal trophy and a free lunch, might I add, at our December board meeting, where we just recognize individuals or organizations who have demonstrated leadership in supporting the implementation of the Regional Long-Range Transportation Plan. We do have 5 main categories that we award. So that is leadership in private business or nonprofit, leadership in practice for a working professional, of which we have several in this room, I might point out, leadership in practice for an individual or a volunteer, leadership in government for any specific project, and then leadership by example of an elected or appointed official. And with that, Mr. Chair, that concludes my briefing.
Thank you. Any questions, comments? Y'all have been busy or are busy. Ms. Carson, I think we may be starting to see some school buses around, judging by the quantity of back-to-school supplies in the aisles of Walmart, at least. What's the story? What's going on in the school bus business?
Yes, Mr. Chair, we've got drivers starting dry runs this week. Some of them went out last week, and we've had lots of drivers training for all summer. We've got, at this point, we have just enough drivers to drive, so we still need sub-drivers to cover those. Any open routes we have if someone gets sick. So if you know anyone who wants to drive a bus, we're happy to hear from them at Durham School Services. We are getting our students routed. The registration deadline has passed, but parents can still register, and we'll get them routed. So we're working through all of that. We're excited to have them roll here on August 13th.
Okay, any questions from Ms. Carson? Comments? Are your bus driver numbers better this year than previous years? You said you're pretty well set except for backups.
Yeah,
I've seen other places, I've seen school buses with signs hanging on them screaming, "We need drivers," apparently
We
not in
need
your district.
drivers. So I would not use the word set. I would use, we are I think last time I looked, we had 2 routes that didn't have drivers assigned to them yet. So, but it's just like any operation. People are gonna have their days where they get sick and they need to stay home. They're gonna have their days where they have medical appointments and vacations. We need substitute drivers, and that is the pool of folks that we do not have yet. So we do not have a pool of substitute drivers, and we will need that. We see in this industry, we can see up to 10% of call outs a day. So it's kind of high for, but it's industry norm. So we really do need that sub pool.
Okay. Ms. Dahl, anything else from your side of the fence?
We are going to be finishing up Valley Connect 3.0, which is our long-range transit plan, this fall. That will basically set our new planned routes and services for the future, as funding allows. We currently still have Main Street Station in downtown Boise is closed in the bottom as we're installing the electrical charging station. So all buses are on the top deck on the street level. I think that's gonna probably, we don't really have a set date for that, but it looks like it's gonna extend at least another month or two while that construction is finishing up. And those are the 2 big things I can think of at this point. So thank you.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. Mr. Price with ITD, what's new in your world, sir?
Yes, thanks, Mr. Chair and Commissioners. Big thing is State Highway 16 and the State Highway 44 interchange. That work is going to start this week. Probably seen some announcements on it. So that'll be a project that goes until I think the completion's in 2027. There's been some work on Chinden that many of you have probably noticed. The work in the Meridian side, so west of Eagle Road, is pretty much complete. On the east of Eagle Road, they're finalizing some breaks for manhole covers and then some striping, but that's pretty close to being done. Eagle Road, there's a microsurfacing project that's going on. I haven't gotten an update on that one recently. I'll have a meeting tomorrow morning where I'll get more information on it. And then the other work on Eagle Road, the variable speed signs, as well as the closing the left in at Bald Cypress, and then another left in for another U-turn movement, left U-turn movement. Those are scheduled to start the end of this month. Again, I should get an update on that at my meeting tomorrow morning. That's all I have.
Questions, comments for ITD? Thank you, sir. Okay, the next item on the agenda is staff communications. Mr. McClure, you found a shoehorn and slipped something in. Tell us about it.
Mr. Chair, members of the commission, the mayor's office received a complaint last week regarding a business owner over on the north side of a drive aisle by Hobby Lobby. The complaint was regarding a number of just unsafe automotive movements, and then the way that interacts with other users in the area. He also sent a video, which I did not share, of a child being hit at one point by a vehicle, and the driver was clearly not paying attention.
Let me stop you a moment. Ms. Hill, can you give us an aerial of that?
So we had our ace pilot in the back of the room and got some drone shots of this for you guys to see in high resolution. Craig Bergman. Mayor's office, this was a request.
Back out just a little bit, would you, so we can orient? If you can.
Mr. Chair, I'm not on Google Maps. I'm just showing you an aerial right now from a drone photo. So we can go through this first, and then I'm happy to pull up the broad scale.
Okay, thank you. Go ahead, I'm sorry.
So not only was this a staff communication, but the mayor's office requested the Transportation Commission's feedback in terms of improvements that might be made to this area. I think Commissioner Ballard earlier mentioned that, this is not a public road. I don't know that this is a private street. It might be a drive aisle, a private street, or it might be multiple private. It might be a private street, it might be a drive aisle, it might be multiple drive aisles, as I would likely guess, but they're not public. The mayor's office is going to be having some staff reach out to the property owners and talk to them about this concern, especially since a child was hit by a vehicle in this area. And the mayor's office would like to understand whether you guys might have any suggestions for improvements to this intersection.
So Bald Cypress Street to the east of where you're talking about does not continue, Mr. Bruner, to the west through the area. Is that correct? That is correct?
Heather's pulling up Google Maps for you.
Mr. Chair, members of the commission, that is correct. Yeah, Bald Cypress Point, when it stops at on the east side of Eagle Road, and then on the west side, that is private.
And it picks up again, no, back out just a little bit, please. It picks up again, even though it's labeled on this map as being a street, it is a private street.
That is correct.
It's public to the right side of Eagle, which is on the right side of the screen. Is it public to the left side of Center Point Way, to the west?
It is not.
It is not, so all of that's private,
All
okay.
that's private, yes. Center Point, where it crosses, that's public. However, that entire section, and we actually don't even show it labeled as Bald Cypress Street on our mapping software. This, I think, is just Google Maps or Google Earth, so that may be why it's labeled, but technically it's not even.
Okay, so Bald Cypress Street, east and west on this map from Eagle West is all private.
That is correct, Mr. Chair, yes.
Okay, and Center Point Way is a public street. And the intersection that brought up the discussion is the one where the cursor is at the moment. Okay, I think at least I'm oriented. I did not see, or I couldn't figure out how to see the video of the child, but I understand there's a video of a child in a car colliding, but the child got up and walked away or something to that effect?
Members of the commission, Commissioner Chair, yes, that's correct. I did not share the video. I did not know what to do with it. I felt bad even looking at it. So
Okay,
we do have some drone shots if you want to see animation of the area and what that sort of looks like a little bit more interactively, but no video of the child being hit.
okay, no, and I don't necessarily know we need to, but I was thinking it was available.
For what it's worth, the vehicle is traveling to the west and the kids are crossing the street north-south.
Was he coming from the Hobby Lobby end or the other side? Do
The
you know?
vehicle was coming from the gas station to the east, that direction.
I'm sorry,
The vehicle that struck the child was coming from the east,
to the west,
towards Eagle Road, traveling west,
and the child was going which direction?
north towards.
Going north from Hobby Lobby?
Yes.
Okay. Commissioners, questions, comments?
Mr. Chair, so point of reference, I'm still confused. West Ball Cypress Street.
Members of the commission, this is one of the reasons why, if you look in your packet, attachment A for this memo, there's an exhibit that shows right away. Eagle Road and Center Point are both public streets. Every other street out here is a drive aisle or a private street. None of them are named if they're not public. So Google Maps has made some assumptions here that is incorrect. That is not a named street. It is not West Ball Cypress. It is just a drive aisle.
Put a name on it that doesn't exist
Okay,
on the Google map.
so my question is, you have a driving lane on private property, correct?
Correct.
Okay. What is the jurisdiction of the city to regulate I struggle with this and I did about an hour's research. What is the jurisdiction of the city to regulate traffic on private property? And I can pull up one ordinance that you can't use private property for cut through, and then a state statute that says reckless driving on private property is enforceable by the police. But I'm with you in this sense, Mr. McClure. What help can we give other than having a conversation with the mall owners or this owner and say, you got to figure out how to regulate this traffic?
Commissioners, the request for the mayor's office is suggestions you might have to improve safety out here. So be it crosswalks, additional signage, curb extensions, whatever they may be, and you might think is appropriate looking at these aerials, so that we can talk to the property owners, and it's plural, about those improvements.
I don't think the picture on the computer screen is the same as the intersection shown.
So this one here, the drone shot here, north is to the top. I mean, east is toward the top. So Eagle Road is towards the top.
Oh,
Hobby
okay.
Lobby's in the bottom right corner.
Okay, thank you. That helps.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir.
So, I mean, it's not unusual for businesses or those business parks like that to have drive-throughs where they put their own stop signs up. The city doesn't provide consultation to those types of situations.
The cities sometimes, commissioners, the city sometimes provides guidance when they come in for an original approval. Sometimes we require them, given certain site conditions, for example, one way. But we have no authority to make them do anything right now.
Mr. McClure, but this commission talked about the development at the southwest corner of Linder and Chinden, and Caleb's department, if not Caleb, myself, and John Wasson visited with the developer. It was a halfway or two-thirds built out development about can you, would you, should, couldn't you, should you, and the developer put in some stop signs. No, Caleb, I'm not going to tell you what I told you about it last week, but we did get some stop signs put in because of nobody being hit, but this type of complaint of this is dangerous and at a point, and we went and did some pointing and talking about could you, couldn't you, and the developer did it on his nickel in that case.
I'd like to follow up with this on this. I noticed, I looked it up too and saw that they had that bold cypress marked all the way through, and I'm really familiar with that area, so I knew that wasn't a street. Is there any reason why, I mean, doesn't that go through and it does, so did you tell us, sorry if I missed this, but did you say that bald cypress does not become bald cypress at all on that west side of Eagle?
That is correct. In this area anyways.
Because my next question is, why don't you just make that a road and make them do that? Put the traffic like it's supposed to be, but. Thank you. Or some put stop signs.
Anyone else? Mr. Hood.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I don't know that this will add much to the conversation, but I want to try to help. First of all, is Mr. Hopkins' comments just now kind of tie into Commissioner Ballard's about jurisdiction right now, and we can't just take the property and make it a public road. It's not constructed to those standards, and it's private property. A little bit more of the history there. When the Coles development went in, they did propose this access at a quarter mile on the state highway, which doesn't comply with city regulations. However, the city council did allow it, and ITD obviously had to approve it as well, with the caveat that there be cross-access to the project to the north, which at that point in time was just a twinkle in somebody's eye. But there was a requirement, an allowance to build a drive aisle through there as long as they shared it with whatever type of development came into the north. So it was never contemplated as a real public road, although we didn't want to have additional access points to Eagle and it's kind of unfortunate, right? But Fast Eddie's did get another access, but the idea was to put one there so that they wouldn't need one, but they requested one and got one. Anyway, that's a separate story. And just a little bit more context and history. Some of you are familiar with this project. In fact, probably everyone's been out here to Dick's or Kohl's or one of those. Over the last probably 2 or 3 years ago, I've noticed the developer did put in stop signs on some of their secondary drive aisles in here, right? So it used to be where between Dick's and there's a shoe store or something that kind of goes through there. There's 4-way stops at all of those now. So you can't really fly through here except for what is labeled as Bald Cypress, which is in the street. But all the rest of the parking lot now, practically any 4-way intersection is now stop controlled. So just FYI, I think if the mayor's office or whoever's part of that meeting with the developers, they've went in absent some of that direction from the commission or anyone else at the city and just installed some additional stop signs there because I think they were experiencing some of those same conflicts, even on their lesser drive aisles inside. And yeah, this one is scary. And you're getting more and more people that will cut through, kind of like, I think Heather admitted to doing that. You take the right here at Bald Cypress and you can catch the signal at Ustick. You don't have to wait through the Eagle Ustick intersection. Just cut through. No, I'm not encouraging people to do that, but it happens. So anyways, hopefully that helps a little bit more with the context of where we're at and kind of traffic circulations and what you got going on there on Eagle Road.
Caleb or Brian, I guess I'm a little confused. We can sit here and give you our individual opinions about where they ought to do what.
Yeah.
But even if we do that, who's going to, if the end decision is by either us or staff that somebody needs to go to talk to this development, do you have any idea who's going to do it? And I mean, I don't want to spend our time here talking about, well, should the stop sign be on the east, the west, the north, or the south, or all four, and work through all of that if there's nothing going to happen behind it. Or I understand the question. I'm not sure exactly what's expected of us here.
So Mr. Chair, maybe I'll try, since Brian's done it a couple of times now. That was the request from the mayor's office.
Sorry, Brian.
Is that, if you have some brainstorming type of ideas or thoughts right now, especially with some of you that are engineers, this is your world. I think we probably will end up consulting even further, kind of like we did on that southwest corner of Chinden and Linder. Some ACHD folks, right? Traffic engineers that say, yeah, do, 4-way stop control, there's stop signs on each one, or crosswalks or bulb outs to match, or whatever some of those options are that maybe just on the fly, the Transportation Commission thinks might have legs. I think there'll be more of that. I can't guarantee at the end of the day, again, this kind of ties in, the city's not coming at this with a stick, right? You better or else. We don't have really any requirements there, but we're gonna, you want to do this, right? It's the right thing to do. Put up some stop signs, a bulb out, a crosswalk, or whatever those things are. So we will be working with the mayor's office on having that conversation. At the end of the day, it may be, I don't want to say it's a waste of time, but I can't guarantee the outcome is anything other than some more conversations and pulling at their heartstrings to do the right thing.
Well, not to get Mr. Watson in trouble, but he was very gracious to go out there, spend an hour walking around, like I say, waving arms, pointing and talking about what you could, what you should, what you ought, but I have no authority on this type thing. And that was extremely helpful.
Very, very similar here.
So I'm looking at our 2-hour time limit in the clock. And we've got a few more correspondence items behind this. short of talking about exactly where y'all think stop signs ought to go, is there some kind of general direction you can give staff on this, please?
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir.
Okay, just some general direction. I think that a two-way stop north-south would be very appropriate here. Okay, I don't know if it would have helped this particular crash that happened, but, and then also, as I've driven this, because I go to Wingers quite a bit, heading eastbound, it's very, with the Hobby Lobby building up against the street like that.
Can't see,
What's that?
cannot see.
Correct. I don't think that the south leg of that intersection has good sight lines east and west. So I think that if the developer would prohibit the first stall or two of parking on each side of the south side of the intersection, that could help open up the sight lines a little bit. And, that could even be a precursor toward adding bulb outs on the south corners of the intersection, like they've got on the north corners of the intersection. That's all.
Mr. Ballard, I see your hand.
Mr. McClure, I do have a couple of suggestions. Would you ask law enforcement to be involved in a conversation? If it is possible to get a written agreement between the property owners and law enforcement to enforce rules and regulations. That's one. Two, property owners, and I hear Mr. Hood's comments, that are they interested, and I think they are. I use that shopping area. I creep through there. There's too many points of contact. But will they establish some rules and regulations? Because they can police themselves, I believe, if I use the right term. And I don't know how you make pedestrians any more aware of the dangers of walking across the parking lot without looking up and reading their phones. I don't know how much education you can give them, but in any event, I hear what you're saying, and it's going to take some conversations, because I suspect that there's going to be some parties to the left of or to the right of the V when that lawsuit is filed.
Personally, I would not recommend painted crosswalks north and south across non-West Bald Cypress Street. People believe those things are force fields and cannot get hit if you're in one. I think they make it, in some cases, but possibly like this, they make it more dangerous than if it isn't marked. And I'm not sure that private security hired by a development like this can enforce any kind of traffic regulations, even the ones they make up. I don't know the answer to that one, but I don't want to get into it. So, are we doing you any good at all here?
Mr. Chair,
Yes, ma'am.
Ryan, I want to make sure Ryan has an opportunity to weigh in. He's been muting and unmuting, so I think he wants to.
Mr. Lancaster, jump in.
Mr. Chairman, thank you, Heather. Well, one advantage of sitting in front of my computer here is that I do get to dig into some of my engineering texts, if you will. And it seems more evaluation is needed. So not by us per se, but we can recommend that an engineering study take place. So, some options, some that haven't been discussed, are no intersection control, which is what's there. And there is a principle that the least restrictive traffic control device is the best traffic control device. So there's that, but volumes probably push it above that. Yield control on, let's call it north-south across Baldy Cypress or what's labeled as bald cypress is another option. Or two-way stop control has already been mentioned, but there are, in the manual on uniform traffic control devices, there are some warrants there to help decide just these things that make it objective instead of subjective. So I guess that's my recommendation is we recommend that the I don't know, owners of these facilities that they commission an engineering study to come up with a solution.
Mr. Chair.
Yes, sir.
Um, I'm tapping. I know I'm more of a layman relative to some folks on this commission. Regarding your discussion of crosswalks going north and south, I think from what I remember from my time working on policy, and this is I don't know 7 or 8 years old, so forgive me if there's more recent research that's been done, but I think from what I recall, there's some trend about while crosswalks on their own don't tend to really significantly impact crash rates or severity, like when combined with other calming measures like speed bumps or speed tables or the different things that ACHD uses, there, from what, if I'm remembering correctly, there tends to be a pretty noticeable impact on severity and significance there. And so I wonder, that was kind of the thing when I looked at this of, I see a lot of contact points of sidewalk that goes into Bald Cypress or into that drive aisle that seems to invite a pedestrian crossing with no marking and no traffic calming on either side. And I think that, again, my personal preference, just based on what I've seen, is I'd almost prefer having those kind of couple of points marked and then some sort of in combination with some sort of speed bump along the way. And I think that in combination could at least, I mean, you have increased visibility of a pedestrian crossing, and then on the pedestrian side, especially a speed bump, you kind of tend to hear them, or it affords more time to see a car coming. I don't think there's, I understand the reason for not seeing the video, but I think without understanding how the crash specifically happened, I don't think we can really speak to how it might have changed or stopped this crash. And inattentive drivers are going to be inattentive drivers, but I think that kind of combination is just to my mind what makes the most sense of some speed calming measure, just to slow down, especially cut through traffic heading into those areas where there's that those unmarked crosswalks, and then some sort of marking, whether it's just simple painting or something more like a hawk.
Thank you. Anyone else? I'm not sure how much help we've been.
I appreciate the feedback. It's helpful. Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, the next item on the agenda is correspondence number 1, page 40, which I'm tickled to say one of the commissioners lives in Woodbridge subdivision. Why is it also known as Snorting Bull?
The original plat name before.
Good.
There's more to the story.
Yeah. It was, so there, in fact, I think one of the, it predates Woodbridge. So sometimes you see the Snorting Bull instead of Wood.
Can you believe this whole thing and what I get out of it is Snorting Bull off the bottom line? Okay. Who? Ron, Caleb, either one of y'all or even ACHD, anybody want to give us some recent history about this? been talked about, what's been thought about, what's been done. The people say it's been going on for, it's just the one for 25 years. Surely somebody knows something about it. And I'm not suggesting we hear a 25-year recap, and yeah, I know I'm looking at the clock myself. Rather than interrupt him, would anybody like to go beyond 5:30? It's okay with me.
Well, I think, I mean, what specific thing they want us to do? I don't.
I mean, I can work this for a while, but it's going to take a while to work it. I've got some specific questions for ACHD and so forth, but it's not going to be a 4-minute thing.
Mr. Chair, I propose we take 15 minutes past our 5:30 cutoff.
Do we have a second? I do not hear a second.
Commissioners,
Yes.
if it's helpful, we can come back with an agenda item that discusses this in more detail, including the related study that's going on, rather than just sort of meander.
Yeah, I would love to get into it and see if there's some way to help address it, but it's been going on for 25 years. It's probably going to be okay for another few weeks.
There's drama and intrigue and all sorts of other stuff too, so.
And then I think I've got time. I'm going to jump to correspondence number 2. I presume y'all have all read that. I reached out to Sergeant Smith by email and got the following answer from her regarding the complaint of speeding on Pine between 10 Mile and Black Cat. Best part about that complaint was they didn't say it was a white Audi with my initials on the plate. But the reason is that ACHD hasn't gotten Black Cat and Eustic open on the south side yet, so I don't go that way anymore. But you're making good progress on Eustic between Black Cat and 10 Mile. The sergeant said, I'm out of the office today, so I can't look to see if ACHD has done a speed study out there. We've had our speed feedback signs up. I don't have access to the data exactly today, but we have done enforcement there 3 or 4 times, including the morning commute, with little results. Most of the complaints have gone straight to the mayor's office, so I get missed, delayed, vague reports. Somebody might want to say something to the mayor's office about that comment without attributing it. My guess is the high speed or one-off vehicles that do speed, but we aren't very effective unless there is volume and a pattern we can focus on. If ACHD has done a study there this year, it would be a good idea so we can see what the actual situation is. So if you wouldn't mind, in the meantime, seeing what you've got for speed studies on Pine between 10 Mile and Black Cat. There's also been quite a bit of intermittent construction and road closures on Black Cat, which can also skew the issue. Okay, Heather, let's carry both 1 and 2 forward to our next session in this room. And with that, figure out where I am. You've got a couple of future meeting topics. We've talked about September. Chair would entertain a motion to adjourn.
Moved.
A motion and a second by Mr. Ballard. He beat you. All in favor, say aye.
I
Aye.
Okay, nobody move.